Hi, I'm JJ. Welcome back. I'm going to do a wrap up for what I've read so far for Historathon. First quarter is prehistory to 500 Common Era. And so I am just going to briefly talk about some of the books that I've listened to mostly. I have not gotten very far on my Pontius Pilate book. I just dropped some more. Mostly, it's very dense reading. I'm enjoying it, but not as much as I had hoped that I would. A lot of the stuff that I've already covered was stuff that I had known before, and I'm not really sure that I like the writing style because so much is unknown about Pontius Pilate. So what the author does is basically, especially for his at the beginning with his upbringing and his possible early family life and stuff like that. She basically wrote down and talked about all of the theories and talked about what his life might have been like following each of those stories about his life. So not too much. It was actual fact. It was more like theories and different stuff like that. So it kind of took me a little while to get through that part, but now I'm to the part where he's actually got his job working and is the basically Roman figure that's kind of overlooking the Jewish community, and how different it is for him. How it kind of talks about the different things that would be expected of him in that position, as well as what's going on in in context of his arrival and stuff like that. So now it's getting more interesting. So I think I'll get through it faster. But I just wasn't really enjoying all the, speculation and stuff at the beginning. So I'm hoping that I get a little more grounded in as it continues to go, as I get further into it, which I'm not very far into it. I kept putting it off because I had a big reading month for my regular reading. I'll do that wrap up separately. But the ones that I listened to, Plato and the Tyrant by James Ron, and that is ancient Greece in Syracuse, and he goes to try to essentially find like a philosopher type of king, thinking that it will be the best type of ruler if he is grounded in philosophy. And the parts in the book that talked about the context of that and the ruling dynasty at the time, that part was fascinating to me. I thought I would be more interested in the actual life of Plato. They talked a lot about his work, and I had read his The Republic, so I understood those references. But as for his letters, they were talking like the veracity of which letters might have been written by him. They were talking about, I'm sorry about my cats. They were talking about the rampant, basically counterfeit letters going around and stuff as well. And so I just wasn't as interested in whether or not the letters were from him or not. I just wish they would have focused more on his interactions and the context of the tyrant that he was trying to work under. I did enjoy Penelope's Bones, which was the next one that I listened to, and that was by Emily Hauser. Depending on where it is published, it also goes under the title Mythica, and this one is talking about women's roles in society in ancient times, ancient Greece specifically areas, and how the women in Homer relate to the different things we know about the women in that area in that time period. And I found that book really fascinating. I really enjoyed the archaeology mentioned of it, all the stuff that we learned. I enjoyed the different roles. So they talked about motherhood and how dire that was at the time. And some of the things that I didn't really think about were the mortality rate for pregnant women or even infants and young children was all food based, and how meat and stuff was reserved for the men. So women were like regularly malnourished and did not have enough to bring a safe pregnancy. They weren't strong enough. They weren't big enough to have the baby safely. And then they're trying to nurse and stuff, and they're undernourished, and so the babies are undernourished. So if they did survive pregnancy, a lot of the children died in early life, which I just never really thought about the aspects of that. I knew, without having like germ theory and all of that stuff, about the high mortality rate, but I never really thought or considered it based on malnutrition just because of the patriarchy. So that was interesting. And then she also talked about like the different roles, women as slaves, women as wives, and then even just, the ones who actually were of power, the queens, or even talking about some of the goddesses and stuff within the myths of Homer. So I really enjoyed the whole aspect of that book and what it was trying to do. Next, I read Between Two Rivers by Maudi El Rashid, and that is about Mesopotamia era, Iraq, that kind of history, and that was interesting. It wasn't as much as I wanted out of that. I actually then later read Babylon, which was what I wanted. So Babylon didn't even just talk about Babylon. It did the Sumerians, the Assyrians, then you get to the Babylonians, and then also mentioned the Persians coming in at the end, all within the area of Mesopotamia. So you got a lot more in depth and like the bird's eye view of history. And I felt like that went in much more detail and had a lot more interesting history mentioned in it. Both of them, Between Two Rivers and Babylon, they did feature, the archaeology of the time, trying to understand that. Between Two Rivers focused a lot on language and the cuneiform, because I guess the writer is really well versed in cuneiform. So, like, understanding, the Canaanites and the earlier ones who created the first or one of the earliest written languages and stuff. That part was interesting to me, but I think Babylon was just more what I was expecting out of a history of that area. And then another book by James Romm was The Ghost on the Throne, which I had been wanting to read for a while, so I'm glad that I finally got around to that. And that is Alexander the Great. He's the ghost, and so it's what happens to his empire after he dies and how it gets all divided up amongst his general, because he didn't have any reliable heirs. And it also focused, though, you got to learn about Alexander as himself, how he conquered, his relationships with each of his generals and the people who basically carried on after him. But what I also found really fascinating was the amount of time it spent talking about his mother. I do have a ebook that I need to read his mother, who is Olympias. I do plan to read that, maybe maybe not for this quarter, just on my own, because her life was just fascinating, and deserves its own book. But also his daughter, or his sister, Octavia, was very prevalent, and um, not Octavia, Cleopatra. I don't know why. And so there's just a whole lot of family stuff that was interesting. His half brother, who was considered not, like he could not take the throne because he was considered to be slower or have mental disabilities and stuff like that. So he was never really one of the people that they wanted to be in charge or felt was worthy of him. But just kind of learning about his family life, his family, the people in his family, and all that stuff. I liked that it was more than just the fight for his empire after he left. So I really enjoyed that one. That and Plato and the Tyrant being written by the same person made me even more disappointed with Plato and the Tyrant, because I have loved Dying Every Day, which was the Seneca, and the court of Nero, and then Ghosts on the Throne. I thought he handled the narrative on that really well. It wasn't dense. It wasn't boring at times. It didn't like delve into all of Seneca's teachings and stuff. And this one didn't like go off, even though Aristotle was mentioned, which I do find it fascinating that all three of his books focus on some of the biggest philosophers we've ever had, along with some either tyrants or very popular rulers. So I kind of like the theme he has going on there. Another one that I really enjoyed, but I wanted to like it more, was Agrippina by Emma Sutton. And the reason I didn't like it more was I did not know how I liked her writing style. It was kind of a bit glib, and it didn't take itself too seriously. It wasn't stuffy or anything. Kind of after reading a bunch of these that were very facts based, and it was kind of hard to get into her narrative style. And that I finally got into, and I kind of enjoyed the lightheartedness of it, especially when talking about some of the darker stuff within Agrippina's history. But what I didn't appreciate was there was so many random pop culture references that I didn't get. I don't understand a lot of the movie or TV show or movie star references or anything. I don't think that added to the book at all, and it kind of took you out of the narrative in that time period by doing something so trivial. What I did appreciate was when she linked some of that stuff to modern rulers or modern actual historical stories and events and stuff, because that made it make sense. You saw the through line there. I just didn't really, I don't know. It was hit or miss with some of her references, I guess. And so that's why I didn't thoroughly love it as much as I wanted to. But Agrippina herself, the story about her, how she told the narrative and kind of put some of the rumors and the fact that her story was told by propagandists who hated her and had their own agenda, especially being a woman of power in a patriarchy in the time period of ancient Rome, made her even more fascinating, because she was able to do what she did despite all the challenges and stuff she had, despite all the haters, and then how you kind of get to the real story and the real possible motivations or things that happened to her rather than the sensationalized story about all the craziness that she had went through that might have just been basically the tabloids of that time. And then the one that I just finished was The Rise and Fall of the Dinosaurs, which I also really enjoyed. That was by Steve Bristat. This one I personally love. I love dinosaurs. I love like paleontology, archaeology. The amount of detail he went into about how the dinosaurs were able to get so big during the anatomy and stuff. And the idea that I didn't realize how, because they know so much about anatomy, being paleontologists, they sometimes teach, paleontologists teach anatomy to med students because they know the body so well. And I found that fascinating. So when you learn about, you know, how the T-Rex hunted and how he was able to do, they were able to do what they could do. The same thing with the big, long necked dinosaurs, that whole group of dinosaurs and how they were able to grow and exist and stuff, as well as then the Triceratops were kind of the ones that he really focused on the anatomy of. And he also talked about the evolution of them and how the connection of how birds are dinosaurs, and how crocodiles are like a distant cousin descended from a kind of dinosaur type of thing. And just kind of pulling it all together and knowing that like where different dinosaurs were located within the world, and how North America is the ones that had the T-Rex. It was not in other parts of the world. And just kind of very dense at times, but the ways in that he went around and talked about his the in-depth research for different things were actually things that I found fascinating personally, and I don't know if that will be for everybody because he did kind of go in the weeds in some places, but for me it was what I wanted, and I really enjoyed it. But anyway, I kind of already talked too long, but those are the books that I have participated with this quarter for Historathon. I don't think I will be reading as much for history-wise in February, because February is fantasy February, and I have a bunch of fantasy books, and they tend to be really long. So that's kind of my goal. Whereas this one, I only had a couple of books that I planned to read, and then went out and read a whole bunch of random things that weren't really on my list, but it was rabbit holes and stuff that I went down with. So I may end up reading some, but I know that I have a bunch that are still on my list that I will get to still in this quarter. But I was happy with being able to get through as many as I have. I still want to read Messalina, which was the other wife of I Claudius, and another very fascinating woman with power and kind of a enemy of Agrippina in Rome. So that's the one that I want to make sure that I get to in February, but I'm not sure about any of the other ones. I'll continue to read my Pontius Pilate one. But anyway, thank you. I am looking forward to seeing what everybody else has been reading for Historathon, and I'm really glad I got to participate this year in this event. This is my first time doing the whole year long. As a new channel, I get to finally do that, and I really enjoy it, and I hope that you at least are able to find some of these that I've mentioned that you can still read in quarter one, because if I were to recommend some specifically, Penelope's Bones, Goes on the Throne, Babylon, and Agrippina would be the ones that I would recommend. But that's up to you, what your goals are. But I do want to hear what everyone else has to read, and if anyone else has read these and has comments, or any kind of similar ones that I might like, that I can kind of follow along and fall down another rabbit hole with. Anyway, thank you and have a great day.